Well, he believed she was only a cook. Until the cowboy discovered his life's love in the kitchen. Jack rode into the town just as the sun was dipping behind the hills, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The wind carried the scent of dust and dry grass, familiar to him after years spent on the open range. He had been traveling for days, alone, checking on his cattle and fixing fences. His boots were worn, his hat a little faded, and his coat carried the faint smell of horses and leather. He liked the solitude of the road, but after a long ride, even he admitted he could use a good meal and a warm place to rest. The town was small and quiet. A few wooden buildings lined the dusty main street, and the sound of a distant whistle from a train track mingled with the low rustle of leaves in the wind. Pear. Jack guided his horse toward the center, looking for a place to eat. He noticed a small diner with a wooden sign that read, "Emma's Kitchen." Smoke curled from a chimney, and the warm glow from inside invited him like a beacon. Pushed open the door, and the bell above it jingled softly. The diner smelled of fresh bread, baked pies, and something savory cooking on the stove. Jack's stomach rumbled, and he took a slow breath, letting the aroma fill his senses. Behind the counter, a woman moved gracefully, stirring a pot and humming a tune he didn't recognize. She wore a simple apron over her dress, and her hair was tied back in a neat braid. There was a calmness about her, a quiet confidence in the way she worked, and Jack assumed she was just the cook. "Evening," he said, tipping his hat. His voice was low, rough from the dust of the road and the long hours outdoors. "Good evening," she replied, smiling politely. Her voice was soft, but there was strength in it, the kind that comes from knowing your own worth. Brash. She set a bowl of soup on the counter and wiped her hands on her apron. "You look like you could use a good meal." Jack grunted, more out of habit than conversation. He slid onto a stool, resting his hat on the counter. His eyes wandered around the diner. It wasn't fancy, but it was clean and cozy. A few locals sat at the other tables, quietly eating and talking in low tones. The walls were decorated with simple photographs of the town, its people, and the surrounding countryside. Jack liked places like this, small towns with real faces and real stories, far from the busy cities he avoided.
Emma placed a menu in front of him, though Jack barely glanced at it.
He knew he wanted something hearty, something that would fill him up after the ride. "What's good tonight?" he asked, watching her move back to the stove with a pot in her hand. "Well," she began, "the stew is fresh, and the bread just came out of the oven. But I'd recommend the chicken pot pie."
Breaths. "It's been a favorite of the folks here for years."
She smiled, a little laugh hiding behind her words, as if she knew a secret about the town and its people.
"Break." Jack nodded. "Chicken pot pie it is." He reached for his hat again, adjusting it out of habit. There was something about her that made him feel comfortable, even though he was usually cautious around strangers. Maybe it was her calm way of talking, or the way she worked without fuss, focused but gentle. He didn't know, but he liked it. As Emma moved to the stove to serve other customers, Jack watched her. There was an elegance in the way she stirred the pot, the way she carried herself.
It was easy to underestimate someone when they worked quietly in the kitchen, but there was strength in her movements, a rhythm that spoke of years of experience and dedication.
Jack had seen many people in his life, some loud and demanding, some shy and quiet, but few who seemed to radiate such quiet confidence. The door opened again, and a breeze blew in, carrying the scent of the outdoors. Jack adjusted in his seat and watched as a young boy ran past, laughing, chasing a dog that barked and weaved through the tables. Emma smiled at them, calling out, "Careful now, don't trip." Her attention to her work never faltered, yet she still noticed everything around her. Brace. Jack found himself smiling, though he didn't know why. There was something comforting about her presence, something he hadn't realized he had been missing. Finally, Emma brought over his pie, steaming and golden, with a slice already served onto a plate. Here you go, she said, setting it down in front of him. Hope you like it. Jack took his fork, testing the first bite. The crust was flaky and buttery, the filling rich and flavorful. Breath. He chewed slowly, savoring each bite. It wasn't just food. It was care. It was skill. It was a piece of someone's heart on a plate. He looked up at her, and for a moment, he felt a pang of surprise. He hadn't expected so much from a cook in a small-town diner. "Oh, good," he said, finally nodding in approval. His words were simple, but they carried sincerity. Emma's smile widened, a little proud but modest. She didn't need grand compliments. She took satisfaction in knowing her work mattered, that it nourished and comforted. Jack ate in silence, but not the kind of silence that was empty. It was a quiet understanding between two people who didn't know each other well, but already felt a connection. He watched as she moved behind the counter, attending to the other customers with patience and warmth. There was something about the way she treated everyone, polite, attentive, and always with a gentle word, that made him take notice. In his life, he had met people who were rough, people who were hard and unyielding. But Emma was different. She had a strength that didn't need to shout. It was in her kindness, her focus, and her presence. When he had finished eating, Jack sat back and let out a long sigh. He felt content, a rare feeling for someone used to the open road and solitude. He looked at Emma, who was wiping down the counter, and found himself thinking that there was more to her than met the eye. She was not just a cook, not just someone who served meals and smiled politely. There was depth in her, and for the first time in a long while, Jack felt curious, genuinely curious, about the life of someone else. Emma glanced at him as if sensing his gaze. "Everything okay?" she asked. Breath. Jack nodded. "Good meal." Breath, "Thank you." His voice softened, and for a moment there was an honesty there that he rarely showed to anyone.
"You're welcome," she said, and then returned to her work.
But Jack didn't move immediately. He stayed seated for a few moments, taking in the calm of the diner, the soft chatter of the few remaining customers, and the warm light that seemed to wrap everything in comfort. He realized that he had stumbled upon more than just food tonight. He had stumbled upon a sense of home, even if temporary, and the thought made him pause. Bay. Finally he stood, tipping his hat to Emma again. "I'll be back," he said, more a promise than a statement. She smiled, nodding, and he mounted his horse outside, feeling a little lighter than when he had arrived. As he rode off, the last rays of the sun fading behind the hills, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that meeting Emma had changed something. He didn't know what it was yet, but there was a spark of curiosity, a sense that perhaps this small town and its humble kitchen held more than just meals. Perhaps it held stories, dreams, and maybe, if he was lucky, a connection he hadn't expected. And for Emma, back in the diner, she felt a flicker of interest as well. The man who had come in alone, rugged and quiet, seemed different from the usual customers. He was polite but reserved, observant but respectful. She wondered about his life on the open range, the stories he carried behind his eyes, and the places he had seen. She didn't know it yet, but this encounter, brief as it was, would mark the beginning of something neither of them could have predicted. The diner quieted down for the night. Plates were washed, pots were cleaned, and the lights dimmed. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees, carrying the scent of distant fields and horses. Jack's figure disappeared over the horizon, but his presence lingered in Emma's thoughts, just as hers would in his. Oh, two strangers, worlds apart in experience and expectation, had crossed paths in the most ordinary of places, the kitchen. And, unknowingly, a story had begun. Days passed after Jack first visited Emma's diner, but he found himself thinking about it more than he expected. The memory of the warm kitchen, the smell of freshly baked bread, and Emma's calm, confident presence stayed with him. Even on the open range under the vast sky, he felt a strange pull toward that small town and the woman who had served him a simple meal that somehow felt extraordinary. It was late morning when he returned. Jack guided his horse slowly down the main street, noticing how different the town seemed in daylight. The buildings, dusty and quiet the evening before, now hummed with life. Children ran through the streets, their laughter echoing off the wooden walls, and townsfolk went about their daily chores. He spotted Emma inside the diner as soon as he entered, her apron dusted lightly with flour, her hands moving quickly as she arranged a tray of pies. The sight made him pause for a moment, and he felt a warmth that surprised him. "Back again?" Emma asked, her voice friendly but calm, without judgment. She set down the tray and wiped her hands on her apron. "Did you enjoy the pie last night, or are you just hungry for more?" Jack chuckled quietly, pulling off his hat and sitting at his usual stool. "Both," he admitted. His voice was soft, almost shy, though he didn't usually show such side of himself. "It was good. Better than good, actually." Emma smiled, a little blush rising on her cheeks. "Brett, I'm glad you liked it," he said. "I made it fresh this morning." Jack nodded, studying her for a moment. Breath. He noticed the way her hair caught the sunlight through the window, the slight crease of concentration between her eyebrows as she focused on her work, and the patience in her movements. He realized he had underestimated her before. She was more than just a cook. There was intelligence in her eyes, quiet confidence in her posture, and kindness that radiated in the way she treated everyone who came through the door. As he ate, he listened to the soft hum of conversation around him. Regulars greeted Emma warmly, asking about their families or the town's happenings. "Rise out in desperate," he responded to each with attention and warmth, never rushing, never making anyone feel small. Jack couldn't help but admire her. He had met many people in his life, but few carried themselves with such grace and strength without needing to boast about it. Over the next week, Jack found himself returning to the diner more often. Sometimes he came for a quick breakfast, other times for lunch, before heading back to the ranch. But each time he noticed more details about Emma. The way she laughed quietly when a child ran past, the small stories she shared with regulars, and the way her eyes lit up when she talked about her pies or bread. He realized she had a life beyond the kitchen, a mind full of thoughts, memories, and dreams he didn't yet know. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in shades of gold, Jack stayed behind after most of the customers had left. Breath say. Emma was wiping down the counter when he spoke. "Do you always stay this busy?" he asked, curious.
Emma laughed softly, shaking her head. "I like to keep busy."
"It keeps my mind clear, gives me a sense of purpose. And besides, people like to eat."
She paused for a moment, then looked at him. "Why do you ask?" Jack hesitated.
He wasn't used to opening up to anyone, but something about Emma made him feel comfortable.
I guess I just wondered how you do it all.
Great. You seem like you have more to you than just cooking. I mean, I've seen plenty of people work hard, but there's something different. Emma blinked, surprised but pleased. "Thank you," she said softly. "That's kind of you to notice. Cooking is just a part of my life. There's more, yes, but it's all connected somehow. Life, work, people. It all mixes together like ingredients in a recipe."
Jack smiled at the metaphor, appreciating her perspective.
He took a sip of water, then leaned back, watching her move around the diner. "I never thought much about cooks before," he admitted. But you make it look easy, and I can tell it isn't. You put yourself into it, and that makes a difference.
Emma's smile lingered, genuine and warm. I believe everyone has something they're passionate about.
Cooking just happens to be mine, but thank you for noticing.
Breaths.
In the following days, Jack and Emma started talking more. Not just about food or the town, but about their lives.
Jack shared stories of the open range, the loneliness of traveling, and the satisfaction of a day's hard work on the ranch. Emma talked about her childhood in the town, her family, and her dreams for the future, including opening a bakery one day. Their conversations were easy, flowing naturally. They laughed together, shared small moments of understanding, and found comfort in each other's company. Inspiration. One evening, a sudden summer storm rolled in. Dark clouds covered the sky, and rain poured down in sheets. Jack, caught on his way back from the ranch, hurried to the diner to escape the storm. The town was nearly empty, with only a few people seeking shelter indoors. Emma was behind the counter, humming softly as she dried dishes. When she saw Jack shake the water from his coat and hat, she quickly offered a towel. "You're soaked," she said. "Sit down and I'll get you something warm." Jack accepted the towel and sat, grateful for the warmth of the diner. Emma disappeared into the kitchen and returned with a steaming bowl of stew. He took a bite, savoring the rich flavors. "You really have a talent," he said, this time with admiration and respect. Emma laughed softly. "I told you it's more than just cooking," she said, eyes twinkling. "It's about care. And sometimes it's about making someone feel at home when they need it most."
Jack looked at her, struck by the truth of her words.
He realized that he had felt at home in this small diner from the moment he first walked in. Not because of the food alone, but because of her. There was something about her presence, her kindness and her confidence that made the world feel lighter, even amidst the storm. Days turned into weeks, and Jack continued to visit Emma's diner regularly. Their friendship deepened, and small moments of connection became meaningful. Sometimes he helped her carry supplies from the back, or repaired a broken chair. Sometimes she baked an extra loaf of bread for him to take back to the ranch. They shared meals together, stories of their past, and quiet silences that didn't feel awkward but comforting. Jack began to notice the little things that made Emma unique, the way she remembered the names and favorite orders of every regular, the way she laughed at small jokes, the way she could sense when someone was upset without them saying a word. Patience. And the quiet way she navigated the world. He realized that she was someone who could handle life's challenges with grace, someone who could be a partner in both work and life. Dest. Emma, too, noticed Jack's change. At first, he was polite but distant, focused on his own work and life. But now she saw warmth in his eyes, a softening of the rugged exterior. She noticed the way he lingered a little longer when she spoke, the way he smiled at her small jokes, and the care he showed for the people and things around him. She began to see him not just as a cowboy passing through, but as someone kind, thoughtful, and genuine. One afternoon, as the sun filtered through the diner windows, Emma placed a freshly baked pie in front of Jack. He looked at it, then at her, and smiled. "You always make the best things," he said. Psst. Emma shrugged playfully.
"It's nothing special," she replied, though her cheeks colored slightly.
Just a little love in every dish." Jack laughed softly, shaking his head. "It's more than that. It's you. You make it special? For a moment, they just looked at each other, the world outside the diner fading into the background. In that quiet, shared space, they both realized that something deeper was forming, a connection built not on grand gestures but on small, meaningful moments. A friendship was turning into something more, something neither of them had expected but both felt quietly, irresistibly. By the end of the week, Jack found himself thinking about Emma, even when he was miles away on the ranch. Her laughter, her calm presence, and the way she made the simplest meals feel extraordinary lingered in his mind. He realized that he no longer saw her as just a cook. She was intelligent, kind, strong, and beautiful in a way that went beyond appearances. He felt a growing admiration, respect, and something deeper. A sense that maybe, just maybe, she could be the companion he had never realized he wanted.
Emma, too, found her thoughts drifting to Jack.
But she noticed his quiet strength. The way he treated her and others with respect, and the small moments of vulnerability he revealed in his stories. She began to feel a connection that went beyond friendship, a curiosity, a warmth, and a sense of trust that she hadn't felt in a long time. And so, as the days rolled on, their bond grew. Subtle, but undeniable. What had started as a simple meeting over a meal was now blossoming into something that neither of them could ignore. They were learning about each other, discovering layers beneath the surface, and forming a connection that felt real, steady, and promising. The days that followed were warm and bright, but a sense of unease hung over the town. The weather had been unpredictable. Sunny one moment, stormy the next, and Jack noticed it as he rode into town one morning. Breath. Dark clouds had begun to gather over the hills, and the wind carried a hint of something stronger than the usual breeze. He tightened the reins and urged his horse forward, sensing that something might be coming. Inside the diner, Emma was arranging freshly baked bread on the shelves. The smell of yeast and sugar filled the room, a comforting aroma that reminded Jack of why he kept returning. Bah. He dismounted and tied his horse outside, the sound of hooves clattering against the wooden boards blending with the distant rumble of thunder. When he entered, he found Emma humming softly, moving with her usual calm grace. "Good morning, Jack," she said, noticing him immediately. "Looks like a storm is coming." Jack nodded, brushing the dust from his coat. "I can feel it. Might be more than a little rain this time."
He paused, looking around. "You should be careful if it gets bad. This town can get rough in storms."
Bah. Emma smiled, though there was a hint of worry in her eyes. "I'll be fine. I've managed storms before." Jack watched her for a moment, feeling a mix of admiration and concern. There was something remarkable about her composure, the way she faced challenges without fear.
He had faced many storms on the range, but he realized that life in the town, running a business, caring for people, and handling emergencies required its own kind of strength.
And Emma had it in abundance. By mid-afternoon, the storm hit. Rain poured down in sheets, driven by strong winds that rattled the windows. The power flickered once, twice, and then went out, plunging the diner into semi-darkness. Operations. Emma lit lanterns she kept for emergencies, their soft glow casting warm shadows across the room. The few customers who had taken shelter inside murmured nervously, and Jack could see the tension in their faces.
"Don't worry," Emma said calmly, moving from table to table. "We'll be safe here."
"Just stay inside until it passes." Jack offered to help, and together they moved chairs away from windows and secured the door. He was impressed by how naturally Emma took control, giving instructions without sounding bossy, reassuring everyone without panicking. He realized again that she was capable of far more than he had imagined when he first met her. As the storm raged outside, a sudden crash sounded from the kitchen. Back. A heavy shelf, loosened by the shaking wind and vibrations, had fallen over, scattering jars and ingredients across the floor. Jack rushed over to help, lifting the shelf and moving broken items out of the way. Emma didn't panic. She calmly assessed the damage and began cleaning, sorting through the spilled flour, sugar, and preserved foods.
"We'll manage," she said, her voice steady. "A little mess doesn't mean the end of the world." Jack watched her work, feeling a sense of awe.
She moved with purpose, handling the chaos without losing her composure. He realized that her strength wasn't just in her hands, but in her mind and heart. She could face challenges calmly, think clearly under pressure, and inspire confidence in others simply by being herself. As they worked side by side, Jack felt something stir inside him. He had always been self-reliant, used to handling his own problems on the range. But he now realized that he wanted someone like Emma in his life, someone strong, kind, and capable. He felt a deep respect for her mixed with an admiration that went beyond friendship. Hours passed, and the storm showed no signs of letting up. The townsfolk stayed inside, sharing stories and comfort, their voices blending with the sound of rain and wind. Rasp. Jack and Emma continued to work together, preparing extra meals in case the storm trapped more people, cleaning up the mess, and checking that everyone was safe. Finally, as night fell, the storm began to ease. The rain slowed to a drizzle, and the wind softened. Jack looked around the diner, seeing the aftermath of their efforts. The floor was still a little messy, but everything essential was secure, and the customers were safe and fed. He felt a sense of satisfaction, not just from surviving the storm, but from having faced it together with Emma. "Thank you," he said quietly, turning to her. "I don't think I've ever seen anyone handle a situation like this so well."
Emma smiled, her eyes softening.
"We all have to face challenges sometimes," she said. "It's how we handle them that matters."
Jack nodded, feeling a lump in his throat.
He had faced many storms in his life, but he had never been as moved by someone's courage and calm as he was now. Emma's strength, her kindness, and her unwavering presence had left an impression on him that he couldn't ignore. Over the next few days, the town slowly returned to normal. People cleaned up the debris, repaired broken fences, and helped neighbors recover from minor damage. Jack stayed longer than usual, assisting where he could. He and Emma worked together frequently, repairing what needed repair, preparing meals for the community, and supporting each other in small ways. During one quiet evening after the last customer had left, Jack and Emma sat together on the diner porch watching the sun set over the hills. The storm had passed, leaving the air fresh and cool. The sky was painted in soft colors, and the town below looked peaceful once again.
"You know," Jack said softly, "I came here thinking I'd just stop for a meal, maybe a warm place to rest."
"I didn't expect this." He gestured to the town, the diner, and finally to her. Breath. "I didn't expect to see how strong, capable, and incredible you are." Emma laughed lightly, a little embarrassed. "I'm just doing what I can. That's all." "No," Jack said, shaking his head. "It's more than that. You handled everything with calm, grace, and care. I've seen a lot in my life, but you're remarkable." Emma looked at him, surprised by the sincerity in his voice. She felt her heart flutter slightly, a sensation she hadn't felt in a long time. She had always admired Jack's quiet strength, his respect for others, and his gentle humor, but hearing him speak so openly made her realize that he saw her in a way no one else had. They sat in silence for a while, watching the sun dip below the horizon, the soft colors reflecting in their eyes. Jack felt an unfamiliar warmth in his chest, a feeling that grew stronger with every passing moment. He realized that he didn't just admire Emma. He cared for her deeply. He wanted her in his life, not just as a friend, but as something more. In the days that followed, Jack found himself helping Emma more than he had intended. Dusk. He repaired shelves, carried supplies, and even helped with the heavier cooking tasks when needed. Each time he noticed her strength and skill anew, but also her kindness and patience. Emma, in turn, noticed the way Jack respected her, supported her, and treated her as an equal. She felt a growing connection, one that was deepening with every shared task, every conversation, and every quiet moment. One afternoon, Jack arrived at the diner to find Emma struggling with a particularly heavy delivery of flour and sugar. Without hesitation, he stepped in. "Here, let me help," he said, lifting the boxes with ease. Emma laughed softly. Grateful. "Dusk.
You always seem to know when I need a hand,"
she said. Jack shrugged, smiling. "I've learned to pay attention. You make it easy to notice." Emma felt her cheeks warm at his words, realizing that their bond had grown stronger than either of them had expected. They had faced challenges together, survived storms, and supported each other in ways that went beyond simple friendship. They had built trust, respect, and an unspoken understanding that was rare and precious. As the sun set again, painting the sky in hues of gold and purple, Jack and Emma shared a quiet moment on the porch. They didn't need words to express what they felt. The connection between them was clear, growing stronger with each passing day. Jack knew that he had found someone who could be his partner in life, someone whose strength matched his own, whose kindness softened his rugged exterior, and whose presence made his heart lighter.
Emma, too, felt a sense of certainty she hadn't experienced in a long time.
She had found someone who respected her, admired her, and saw her for who she truly was. Jack was more than a cowboy passing through town. He was a man with depth, courage, and a gentle heart. Someone she could trust, rely on, and care for deeply. And so the days continued, filled with small tasks, shared meals, and quiet conversations. But beneath the ordinary moments, a deeper connection was growing, one forged through shared challenges, mutual respect, and genuine care. The storm had brought them together, revealing strengths, vulnerabilities, and feelings that neither could ignore. Jack no longer saw Emma as just a cook, and Emma no longer saw Jack as merely a rugged traveler. They had discovered qualities in each other that made them stronger, happier, and more complete. And in that realization, they both understood that life had a way of bringing people together in the most unexpected ways, through storms, challenges, and quiet moments of understanding. The storm had passed, leaving the town washed clean, the air fresh and calm. Jack stayed in town longer than usual, partly because the ranch work had slowed down, but mostly because he couldn't stay away from Emma. Every morning he found himself walking into the diner, smiling at her as she moved about the kitchen with quiet confidence. Their conversations had grown deeper, more personal, and each day the connection between them strengthened. One bright morning, Jack arrived with a basket of eggs and milk he had collected from his ranch. "Thought you might like some fresh supplies," he said, setting them on the counter. Emma's eyes lit up. "That's very thoughtful of you," she said. "Thank you, Jack." He shrugged, trying to hide the small thrill he felt at her gratitude. "It's the least I could do."
You've done a lot for this town, and for me, I guess.
"For you." Jack nodded, a little awkwardly. "You made me feel welcome. Safe, like I belong somewhere, even if it's just for a little while."
That's not something I'm used to.
Emma's cheeks warmed at his words. She had noticed the subtle changes in him over the weeks, the way he relaxed more when he was around her, the small smiles he allowed himself to share, the way he would stay longer than necessary just to talk.
I'm glad, she said softly.
"I feel the same way, you know. You've made my days brighter, too." The moment hung between them, quiet but full of meaning. Jack realized that he couldn't ignore his feelings any longer. But he had tried to see Emma as just a friend, a kind woman in a small town. But the truth was clear. He cared for her deeply, more than he had ever cared for anyone in a long time. That evening, as the sun dipped low behind the hills, Jack walked into the diner with a small lantern in hand. Emma was wiping down tables, humming softly, unaware of his presence. He stepped closer, his heart pounding. "Jack," she said, turning at the sound of his voice. "Is everything okay?" He nodded, swallowing hard.
Everything's fine.
I just wanted to talk to you for a moment." Emma set down the cloth she was holding and gave him her full attention. "Of course. What's on your mind?" Jack took a deep breath, looking into her eyes. "I've been thinking a lot about us and about what I feel. I came to town thinking I was just passing through, just stopping for a meal or a place to rest."
But I've realized something. You're not just the cook here, Emma.
You're remarkable. Strong, kind, capable, and he paused, searching for the right words. "And I care for you more than I expected. I think
I think I've fallen in love with you."
And a soft smile spread across her face, gentle and warm. "Jack, I felt the same way," she admitted. "I was afraid to say anything, but I've noticed the way I look forward to seeing you, the way your presence makes things feel lighter. I think I've fallen for you too." Relief and joy flooded through Jack, and he couldn't help but grin. "So, Ray, we're on the same page?"
he asked, a little nervously. Emma laughed softly, reaching out to touch his hand.
Yes, Jack. We are." From that moment, everything felt different. The diner, the town, even the open range beyond the hills seemed brighter, warmer, and full of possibility. Jack and Emma began spending more time together, not just in the diner, but outside as well. They walked through the fields surrounding the town, shared picnics near the creek, and worked together on small projects at the diner and in the town. Each day, they discovered new things about each other, little quirks, shared values, and dreams that aligned in ways neither had expected. One afternoon, Jack suggested they take a ride on horseback together. Emma hesitated at first, having rarely ridden before, but Jack's reassuring smile convinced her. They mounted the horses and rode through the rolling hills, the wind whipping past them, the sun casting long shadows over the land. Emma laughed freely, her joy contagious, and Jack felt a happiness he hadn't known in years. He realized that life with her could be full of laughter, partnership, and love, even amidst the hardships that came with ranching and running a diner. As they rode back toward town, the sky turned golden with the setting sun. Jack stopped at the top of a small hill, overlooking the town and the surrounding countryside. He turned to Emma, who was smiling at the view, her hair catching the light.
"You know," he said softly, "I never imagined I'd find someone like you in a small-town diner."
But now I can't imagine my life without you.
Emma looked at him, her eyes shining.
"I feel the same way," she said. "You've become a part of my life in ways I never expected." They shared a quiet moment, simply holding hands and enjoying the stillness around them. It was a moment of understanding, a recognition that their lives had intertwined in a meaningful way and that they had found something rare and precious in each other. Over the following weeks, their love continued to grow. They faced small challenges together, like repairing the diner's roof after a strong wind, helping neighbors with daily chores, and preparing for the town's seasonal festival. Each challenge brought them closer, reinforcing their bond and teaching them how to rely on each other. Jack admired Emma's resourcefulness, her patience, and her ability to handle life's unpredictability with grace. Emma admired Jack's quiet strength, his loyalty, and the gentleness beneath his rugged exterior. One crisp morning, Jack arrived at the diner, carrying a small wooden box. Emma looked at him curiously as he set it down on the counter. "What's this?" she asked. He opened the box to reveal a delicate silver necklace with a small pendant shaped like a heart. "I wanted you to have this," he said softly, "as a reminder that you've changed my life. That I love you, and I want to share my life with you in every way I can." Emma's eyes filled with tears, and she reached out to take his hand. "Jack, it's beautiful. And so are you for thinking of me this way. I love you too." From that day forward, their partnership was not just about love, but about shared life. Jack helped with chores at the diner when he could. Emma joined him on short trips to the ranch, and together they built a routine that balanced work, friendship, and love. They supported each other's dreams. Emma's dream of opening a small bakery alongside the diner, and Jack's commitment to his ranch.
As seasons changed, so did their relationship, deepening with each passing day.
Winter brought snow, which they shoveled together outside the diner, laughing at their clumsy attempts. Spring brought flowers and new life, and they spent mornings planting herbs and vegetables for the diner. Summer was filled with long days on horseback, exploring the hills and fields, while autumn brought harvest festivals where they worked side by side, smiling and sharing moments of quiet tenderness. Through it all, the town became a backdrop to their love story. The locals watched with quiet delight as Jack and Emma's bond grew, noticing the way they looked at each other, how they supported one another, and how naturally they fit together. The diner, once just a place of work, became a symbol of their shared life, a place where people gathered, meals were shared, and love was nurtured alongside bread and pies. One evening, as the sun set and painted the sky with shades of pink and gold, Jack and Emma sat together on the porch of the diner. Emma leaned her head on Jack's shoulder and he wrapped his arm around her. They watched the town below, the hills beyond, and felt a quiet peace that came from knowing they had found something rare and enduring.
"I never thought a small-town diner could change my life," Jack said softly.
Emma smiled, squeezing his hand. "Neither did I. But sometimes life surprises you in the best ways." Jack nodded, feeling a warmth in his chest that went beyond the physical comfort of the evening. "I'm glad it surprised us," he said, "because I can't imagine my life without you."
"And I can't imagine mine without you," Emma replied. As night fell, they remained on the porch, wrapped in each other's arms, the stars beginning to twinkle above.
The world was quiet, the air crisp, and the moment perfect. They knew that life would bring challenges, storms, and uncertainties, but they also knew that together they could face anything. Their love was no longer a secret, no longer a question. It was real, steadfast, and enduring. The diner lights glowed softly behind them, the smell of freshly baked bread and warm food lingering in the air. It was a place of beginnings, of sustenance, and of love. Jack and Emma had discovered in each other a partner, a confidant, and a true friend. They had learned that love was not only about grand gestures, but about shared moments, mutual respect, and the courage to face life's storms together. And so, in that small town, with the hills surrounding them and the diner as their anchor, Jack and Emma began a new chapter of life together. One built on trust, affection, and the quiet certainty that they had found something rare. A love born not from chance alone, but from understanding, patience, and the willingness to see each other fully. Their story was no longer about a cowboy and a cook, but about two people who had discovered their hearts in the most unexpected place, in the warmth of the diner, the fields beyond, and in each other's eyes they had found home, love, and a future worth cherishing forever.